just wanted to kind of speak about this and say that there's really only so many things and so much that you can do in life in regards to acceptance and in regards to doing as best as you can. You can't control everything, you can't control all the pillars that life is built upon. You can just do the best you can to make the best informed decision that you can possibly imagine to be making. And that's what I say, is that you would never have to feel guilt if you do the best you can. If a parent passes away, or a friend passes away, or someone close to you passes away, like, that's going to happen. That's something that's expected, right? But the best you can do is just do, and also that comes into doing as good as you can to people around you. Like, don't make these people work too hard. Like, always be able to help, always reach out with a helping hand, and understand that I mean, if you're living with family members or parents, you understand that just do a bit more. I've learned a lesson through my uncle's passing. I just want to do a bit more in the house. I don't want to think everything is just about myself. I don't want to have the world revolve just around me. I want to reach out to other people around me, maybe not even family members, and help these people with their daily tasks or just make their life easier. And that's what is expected from us if you're a religious person, with your life. And even if you're not really religious, even that, you can still be someone who's morally equitable and pious without really being religious, and understanding this principles of mutual agreement and giving. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about it. I don't really have a topic or anything, but I just wanted to talk in the air about specific things in this world that is difficult to bear with. And I think one of them is definitely death and losing people around you. And I mean, I had a very good good opportunity to experience that recently in this month. But I also wanted to talk about something different in the incel line. Now, I don't really like the term incel, but if you know me, I'm a lifelong involuntary celibate man, right? And I just want to talk to fellow incel people who are also experiencing this horrible illness or condition, because it really is an illness. If you think about, I think incel or involuntary celibacy, for lack of the better term, is very much like living without a limb. Everyone else has 2 arms and 2 legs, but you don't have a limb. You likely don't have a leg, or you don't like to have an arm. I would say that's much more what incelness to me is in a mental playing field. In a social playing field, that's to me like losing a limb or not having a limb, or being vacant from having a limb. Because in the end, we are social species, and we require that social reciprocation. So if we don't get that, we are missing something huge in our lives. It's just the way it is. And I won't say, classically speaking, I'm someone who's incel, because I mean, I'm not a virgin anymore. But also, on another note, it's not like I can't get anyone. Like, for me, it's not like I can't get anybody or attract anyone. I definitely have people attracted to me, but it's not people I would say who the world would be attracted to, and also not someone I'm not attracted to. Like, my form of attraction and my specific template of someone who is attractive, those people don't fill that template. So to me, I'm not someone who would describe myself as happy romantic, because of the fact that I can't attract the people that I want in my life. And I've always just had this illness of, there's this classic example, I think it was also taught in the movies, about attracting people you're not really attracted to. I, quote unquote, I always get the people I don't like, and the people I do like don't like me back. It's a classic example that I've just been living at. I've always had this problem with the people I was really interested in. They never really liked me, and vice versa. The people I didn't like, I just got more of the people I didn't like, and I didn't get any of the people I was interested in. And I think that for many of these things, like incel social problems and stuff, we have to understand also that there is a peak effect in everything that you can achieve in life. Like, that is so with intelligence, and I think the young principles that we were thinking about how life works, like if you think about you as a young person or a youth, like, there was a specific time where you realized the way the world works, right? But as a very young person, you didn't have a concept of the world as it is, so you believed in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. I know a lot of people who say they never believed in these things, but at a specific age they did. They had to, because that's just the way the brain and the evolution of your social structure works, right? So, I mean, initially you're born, you don't really have any type of vacancy or sorry, that's not the right, but attainableness to this world. You don't have a pragmaticism to the world as it is, and you will have to build that up obviously through experience. So you learn the way that the world works, and I think as you grow older, you get this concept of the bell curve, like this whole Gaussian distributional effect, the idea of the mean and the average, or the law of the mean. What I basically believe in is the law of the averages, or the law of the mean, that says that there's limits to everything that you can achieve. And that is so with socialness, that is so with attraction, that's so with attractiveness, that's so with intelligence. And the way I believe is that the best thing you can do as a person is just to forego the very things that you are bad at in exchange of the things that you are good at, obviously, and make the best of that. Because if you're really bad at something, or just really just horrible at something, forego that, kind of sidestep that, and do just the things that you're good at, right? And do as little as the things that you are doing badly, and as much as the things that you're doing goodly, or worse, or better than what you're doing worse. So that's exactly the point of philosophy in the way that I see it, is that forego the things that you do badly and do the things that you have talent for. And that's the whole idea of the law of the average, is that you're going to be good at some things, better at other things, and maybe even an expert in some things, and then very bad at other things. And I also think that you need to fail, and fail pretty fast, pretty damn fast, because if you keep on hammering on something that you're really bad at, you're just going to get worse in the end, because the whole idea of competitive advantage is going out of the window, right? The idea of going for something that you're really good at, or equipped in, you're not going to have the chance to practice that expertise, or that specific skill set that you have or been born with, because you're focusing too much on something you're bad with than to get better at. So I know that that's a kind of a balancing factor that you have to kind of do, because it's a lot of things that you have to learn. You have to really understand yourself. But I think my philosophy comes down to this law of average, this idea that you need to live in balance with the average and the things that you're better in average at. So for instance, if you're better at writing, I would say 60 to 65 to 70% would be someone's better than average, in my opinion. Let's say you're really good at math, it would be 70% better than average, right? 80%, but if you're someone who wants to go into a math degree and you're only 50%, right, good in mathematics respect to the average mean, then that's not something that is a wise decision. But if you're 60 to 70% better, then I would say that using mathematics is not a bad thing, because you're going to be out competing the other people around you in a 60 to 70% fashion. So that's not something that's stupid to do. So if you're better than average, I would say go into something, but you need to also learn as quickly as possible. I think that's where also intelligence comes in, but also I just think wisdom comes in. I think there's no quick or golden answer to exactly what you're good at and what you're bad at and how long you should be doing that. But I think as a general measure, like if I've been working at a job for 3 months and I struggle, right, to keep on another 7 months is probably not the best use of my time. I'd be better off just switching positions or talking to the manager and saying that this position is difficult for me. But I found, as just by living, that if you struggle at something and you keep doing that, you may complete that specific task, but it's not really going to be worthwhile, because you could have done something that's more worthwhile with your time. And that's something that a lot of people then just should, they just miss this, because they just like, I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to keep going with X and X and X until I get this right. And they miss the whole idea that now the trade-off also happens, because something could be very financially equitable, or something could have had a lot of financial returns to your life, and now just because you leave that thing or you don't do that anymore, now there's not a lot of financial investment in your part, and you're gonna, let's say you're good at music, but you're not very good at math, and now you have a job that requires a bit of mathematics, right? But you don't really want to do the mathematics, so you go into music, but you're only a bit better than average. Then that would have been an unwise decision, because the comparative advantage that you get through music is a lot less investment returns that you'll get through, let's say, your job. So there are differences, and that's something that you gotta I think just feel out, but just be aware that this is kind of the way I see it, is that there's a law of averages, and there's a statistical mean effect with everything that you're doing, and everyone is on a specific bell curve level in retrospect to everyone else, right? So some people are going to be at the upper tiers, like 2%, 3%, and the bottom tiers as well. Like that's gonna, if in every type of distribution, you're gonna have the bottom, the mean effect, and the bottom and the upper. I think just because I'm a statistician, I focus on these types of effects and I focus on the distribution. But that's kind of just the way I see the world, and I see the same thing with looks. Like the upper percentiles of looks gets the most women, the 80-20 rule, all that is hinging on this effect of the mean and averages, if you think about it. And life is very statistical. It's also really random. I mean, we are living, the average person gets average results. People who are better than average get better than average results. It's just the way the world works, right? And that is a rough blueprint for everything you do in life. And it's just the way I see the world. Like, I just don't think that there's another way to see the world. You know, I believe in the law of averages because it's been confirmed to me, not only by but when I did a paper in third year engineering, and it was like statistical modeling, and I think that's where it just formed my idea of the world in a lot of ways. My statistics papers, you know, the Poisson that you get, the Gaussian that you get, the random distribution, the exponential distributions that you get. So all these things form my understanding of the fact that we are all distributed amongst the mean, and we're all in a way leveled, or we're worse or better than other people in some respect. And as a result, you need to kind of double down on the things that you're better at to be able to get maximal returns. And if you think about the way the Chinese and the communistic countries work, they worked on this principle of basically enslaving someone in something they're really good at, and in the end that person's sheer work and blood and sweat pays off in the end because that person's really good at that thing, right? So as a kid, I never really thought about these things. I thought about things in terms of you're good at what you like, and you just have to kind of work and keep your mouth shut, and that's kind of what I believed that as a kid, and it was a very different world for me. But as soon as I started to grow beard and hair, I realized that this is just not the way that the world works, and the world is a lot more cutthroat. It's just animalistic. If you realize just how everything around you is working, it's animalistic, right? It's quite carnivorous, and the weak just gets completely, the weak gets completely disemboweled, and the stronger prevails. It's the way that it's quite infamy prevails amongst the weak and the strong. It's always been the way that the world works, and the sooner you learn this, the better for you. And this is not negative. This is just, to me, the way that you can understand that our universe is symbiotically working to keep itself in balance. And the more that you understand and work with this principle of symbiosis, and not antibiosis, but symbiosis, and sympathy, not antipathy, you will really get better in your life, and you'll get stronger with whatever that might mean for you. And I also think when it comes to women, like going back to the whole, I was kind of going on a tangent, but I mean going back to the whole idea of an incel, someone who is just generally someone who's weaker in terms of attracting women or the opposite sex, right? But the more you're going to, if you really are someone who's a universal, like there's a universal and particular property to incel. Someone who's a particular incel is, let's say, an incel in their own, in their own culture or in their own country. But someone who's a universal incel is going to be someone who's generally someone's unattractive and someone's very weak in attracting the opposite sex. I would say myself as someone who's partly a particular and also a universal incel. And I hate the term incel, so I would rather go with forced loneliness, or also hate the term forever alone. I think all these attributes and etymologues that describes people who are frustrated in love or life shy is quite childish. I actually enjoy the term, like, I like the term TFL more because it's true false loneliness, but I don't like the true in the forced loneliness. True false loneliness was a term coined by Bill Greathouse of the TFL movement, and it's quite cultish in a way, but I like the idea of it because it describes this imperative issue that is persistent in someone's life. It completely almost gaslights the person in a positive way to show this is an individual who suffers and struggles, instead of a childish acclimated pseudonym like forever alone or love shy, or these little pseudonyms or etymologues is to me something that's quite childish. I enjoy TFL because it's very descriptive in a way. It really has power that FA or forever alone or the other acronyms just do not have, right? So I enjoy TFL, true false loneliness. I would describe myself as, that is the problem that I think a lot of people who are incel, quote unquote, suffers from, is true forced loneliness. These people are struggling to find love. These people struggling. Now, true force loneliness doesn't necessarily mean that you can attract anyone. It just means that you can't attract normal, you can't live the normal life that most people live. You probably can get a prostitute, or you probably can attract a very overweight and ugly woman, but that's still true force loneliness, because all that you gotta be to be true force and lonely is to be someone who's not, your needs of the dating market isn't being met. That to me is someone who is descriptive of true force loneliness. Someone whose needs and requirements aren't being met in the dating market. Someone who struggles generally in the dating market. It also wings on this idea of someone who struggles generally in the dating market. And true force loneliness, and I've seen being overseas and having true force loneliness coming back here, I still struggle with true force loneliness. So it's something that I feel is, when you're proven to be true force lonely, it's something that has a universal attribute and property to it. Like, it has implications universally. Wherever you are based, you are kind of having that same issue. Whereas most people, they don't see it. And that, what I really like about the description of true force loneliness, it basically hints at an error that the person is struggling. It hints at the struggle itself, that you won't get with terms like forever alone, or love shy, or the other ones like involuntary celibate. Or it doesn't describe anything more than just a small spectrum, like someone who's involuntary celibate. That could mean a lot of things. But true forced loneliness is almost directive to the real problem, that the person is internally struggling at an environmental issue that just doesn't get resolved. And I prefer like a holistic term like true forced loneliness to any of the other terms I talked about. But again, on the side note of that, I wanted to just talk about it and just say that I have a bit of a disgust for Forever Alone and all these other pseudonyms that people, acronyms that people are talking about, because I don't really feel that this applies to me, and I don't really feel proud of claiming that acronym for myself. I feel more proud of using TFL as an acronym or a specific obituary to be able to be descriptive to my own situation. But I feel it's real, and I think we also need to, just like the Japan, I talked about Japanese men whose social inhibition. And I talk about how Japan has done the right thing, and the East generally have done the right thing, right? So you look at Japan and you see a lot of people with struggles in different means, like schooling, whatever. People start to use a movement. They start to create a movement around the issue that they're experiencing. And I don't see this in the West easily. I think we have a lot to learn from the East when it comes to understanding social inhibition and stigmatization. Because Japan is doing it correctly. People, the Hikoromoris of Japan, for instance, started a movement, Hikoromori, because they felt the need to air their difficulties as social alienated people. And in the West, we don't have terms like that. We borrow the terms from the East to be able to describe what we have in the West, and I think that's a problem. I think that's why the boat will have, we will have a Titanic effect with trying to make a change, because we don't know how to raise awareness like the Japanese do. Like, they really know how to do it well, and we got to really learn from them, because all these movements that actually come from awareness movements actually come from Japan. MGTOW, all these things are borrowed from Eastern terminologies. If you look at the roots of many of these social movements or stigmatized movements in the West, we actually borrow a lot from it from the East. So I think the answer to incel, if you really are someone, I don't really like the term of TFL or incel, whatever you call yourself, you really need to start to form we need to start to form a movement of people other than MGTOW to try and, I do think TFL is doing it well, but I mean, we really need to, we need to stop complaining about it also. Like, that's another thing. I think the future of this movement, whatever you want to call it, whatever pseudonym or derivative you want to use for this movement, but we need to form a derivative idea of living that is not something that is absolutely affirmative to the way that the normal or a normative distribution of people do it. For instance, we are clearly not someone who is, we're people with issues. That we got to understand, this is not just a stigma that infuses itself into a small group of people with problems environmentally. Yes, there's an environmental issue with people in general. Like, we talked about the meme issue. Like, everyone is just going after trends and memes, right? Everything, you're going to make a meme of anything today. And young people today are just all about memes. They feel like Tinder is their new boyfriend. They're just a swipe away from unmatching someone, and they're a swipe away from matching someone new. So there's this abundance mentality amongst women today, and I think this obviously transgresses onto this idea of problems, even unto older people, because I talked about how the younger people are in a way us tomorrow, right? So everyone is just like symbiotically influencing everyone else. And just like with the younger generations, they're influencing the older generations. So I see women, for instance, I see in South Africa exactly what I saw in the other countries, the first world countries. To me, the third world countries today is just third world countries with first world problems. Third world countries might be economically unfeasible to live in, but they have the same issues socially as first world countries has today. May have not been there a decade ago, but that's the way it is today. And I see that in Russia, I see it in China, I see it even in the Philippines, like all these countries that was open to people who were, let's say, incel or involuntary celibate, aren't open anymore because women also changed face in those countries, so much so that the very optional that we had before as people who are forced lonely, we don't have these options anymore because of the way that social trends are changing people's opinion on other people. That's just unfortunate, but I mean, that's the way it works. So I definitely think a part of incel is definitely the fact that we have environmental issues and stigmatization, and another part is the fact that we're different. The other part is that we are the issue and we always were different. And a bit of differentness has been skewed from the average mean will make you very different. That's an exponentially a gaining effect that you get, especially in today's social stigmatized and alienation that you get today. So every bit of anomaly to the mean is something that's going to really cost you in the long run when it comes to dating. And that's more so than it was yesteryear, because I remember when I was little, you got nerds who dated pretty girls. You got all these just anomalous individuals and this very unwavering, uncanny people who got people with idiosyncrasies who could date just almost average women, or just like even pretty women. Like you got rich. Like we always knew when we were little, like the rich men get pretty girls. It's just the way it goes, and that's not the case today anymore. You got to have looks and money to be able to make it. It's not the way it used to be before. So I see it. I mean, I'm talking to you guys in first world countries and other third world countries and tell you that where I live, please understand this. I'm living in a third world country, and I'm telling you it's exactly the same issue, exactly the same problems. I even have worse problems here with people dating. I can't for the life of myself date in this country. Women just reject me, and I never had this before. I could date freely in countries like Australia or Canada, and I can't do that here. So understand this, that if you think of coming to a third world country because it's going to be quote unquote better, or people are going to be more likable and stuff, forget about it. I don't know about your countries, but I can tell you from a first-hand experience, the world is changing. Social acclamation is really changing people's peripheral visions in terms of the social movements. And that is really causing a lot of problems to a lot of men who are just a bit, different and quite, divergent to the average mean effect of social climate. So I don't see that. I don't see these. I don't see men who are odd who date pretty women anymore, or men who are. It's just all this. I think that the stigma is so much so to actually give a lot more power to men who might be assholes and who might be better looking, I think, or women for that matter. But for instance, you got a lot of short guys as well who dated pretty girls. I don't see it where I live anymore. I could see that a lot of women are dating men who are, just vulgar looking and stuff, but they're still tall, they're still muscly. That type of traits, character traits. It may be the character traits that they're kind of wishing away, but the physical attributes that they're going after is still height and looks. In a way, like they're still going after mass specific genetic hereditary traits that they're going after to be able to date a guy that they're liking. So in the past, it didn't used to be this. Like there was a lot of room for basically achievement that you can achieve if you had a lot of money. You can attract someone who's reasonably good looking. Like now, if you're just a very rich guy, you can get probably a very, very ugly looking woman. And that's about what you have for your, that's what you have for your lottery wins in your life. And that's just not the way it used to be. I can't remember this to be the way, even as a teenager. I was very much socially accustomed to a lot of people around me. I'm quite a social person, so I remember having a lot of friends. I never had problems making friends. And I think it's the first time in my life where this is really starting to become a problem socially. So yeah, I just think that I don't really have a lot more to say about this, but it really is an issue. I really think we are having a global issue with the fact that people are getting more and more disconnected, and it's not us, it's the fact that and I would also say stop blaming yourself. Like, if you don't have a girlfriend, you think by yourself, and I do a lot of times, like, why am I not getting out? Why am I not going out more and meeting more people? And then I just try and converse my own thoughts and realize it's not my fault. It's not me. It's actually it's women. It's not me. It's just the way that the world is working today. It's the acclamation of the climate change socially that is causing me and other men not to socialize who are normal. And also when you're immigrating, that's just people generally are much more cliquish as well. And if you're a newcomer, like, you're not going to meet anyone. That's also why I talk about small town mindsets. Is if you're going to think about going to a small town, forget about puppy. I mean, you're not going to go to a small town and meet more people. It's just kind of where people are so cliquish today, and especially with the social problems that we have today, with all this new social trends that is just completely cutting the heads off of a lot of potential probabilities. That's not going to make anything better. And I mean, you're just going to. Also, bigger cities is not necessarily it's not a guarantee that you're going to meet someone. You can still be single forever being in a bigger city, and that's just the way it is, I guess. Yeah.